Picture this. You're out there, really out there, miles from anything, completely alone. The only light painting the wilderness is that eerie green glow of your night vision camera. And then it happens. A branch snaps, impossibly close, just 10 feet behind your tent. Your heart leaps into your throat, right? That primal fear? Well, the three campers we're about to tell you about, they don't have to imagine that feeling. They lived it. And trust me, their stories are going to make you seriously second-guess that next solo trip into the woods. Stick with us until the very end, because the final clip, the one from Spokane, left even seasoned law enforcement officers completely stumped, with absolutely zero answers. This isn't Hollywood horror, folks. This is the real deal, raw and unedited, caught when the veil between the known and unknown feels thinnest. Our first chilling encounter takes us to late October, just outside Flagstaff, Arizona. Now, this isn't your typical lush green forest. No, sir. Just the year before, a brutal wildfire had ripped through this area, scorching thousands of acres, leaving behind a landscape that can only be described as a moonscape. Imagine it. A desolate expanse of blackened tree trunks, stark against the sky, and knee-deep ash covering everything like a morbid blanket. It's quiet out there. Too quiet, some might say. But that's exactly what our solo hiker, known online only as M, was looking for. Total, unadulterated solitude. M wasn't new to this. He was an experienced outdoorsman, the kind who knew how to handle himself in the wild. He'd meticulously planned this trip, towing his tiny, rugged off-road camper deep down a long-abandoned, closed forest road. He found his spot, parked up exactly at sunset, just as the last rays of light were painting the horizon in hues of orange and purple, before giving way to the inky black. He even filmed the whole setup for his small but dedicated online channel. You know, the usual calm, peaceful scene, the crackle of his small campfire, the vast, silent expanse of the wilderness. All that beautiful, unsettling quiet. Nothing but the wind whispering through the skeletal trees and the comforting pop of burning wood. That piece, however, was shattered at precisely 11:07 p.m. That's when the first sound hit, a metallic bang against the aluminum side of his trailer. It wasn't a gentle tap either. Oh no, this was loud. So loud, in fact, that his German Shepherd, a usually unflappable, highly trained companion, literally jumped like it had been tasered. You can hear the yelp of surprise, followed by a low, rumbling growl. M, instantly on high alert, doesn't hesitate. He grabs his handheld infrared camera, flips it to night vision, and you can practically hear his breathing go shallow through the mic. The green glow illuminates his face, etched with a mix of confusion and dawning dread. The knocking didn't stop there. It began to move. First, near the back right corner of the trailer, then, just moments later, it shifted to the front left. It sounded deliberate, almost like someone was pacing around his camper, methodically testing its perimeter. M, his voice barely a whisper, a stark contrast to the frantic thumping of his own heart, mutters, "There's no one out here for 30 miles. And he was right. This wasn't a frequented spot. This was isolation incarnate. Then, 10 seconds later, something truly bizarre happened. The campfire, which had been steadily burning, suddenly flared up, as if someone had just blown a massive gust of air directly onto it, sending sparks dancing into the night. It was an impossible, unnatural surge of flame. At the same moment, his dog, still inside the trailer, let out another deep, guttural growl. Hackles raised, staring intently at the door. M, trying to project some semblance of authority, finally yells, "Hey!" into the suffocating blackness. Silence answers him, a heavy, pregnant silence that feels even worse than the noise. And then, 3 more sounds, 3 distinct, deliberate clacks. Not like random debris, but almost rhythmic. Wood hitting metal, perhaps? But what wood? And who was doing it? With a cold knot forming in his stomach, M locks the door, double-checking the deadbolt. His hand instinctively goes to the drawer where he keeps his .45. He pulls it out, the cold steel a small comfort, and keeps filming. The camera catches the handle of his trailer door. And then it shakes. Not vibrating from the wind, mind you. This was a distinct, purposeful shaking, like someone on the other side was trying to open it. Testing it, twice. The longest hours of M's life stretched on. The silence returned, but it was a terrifying, watchful silence. Finally, at 2:14 a.m., a final, earth-shattering crash hit the trailer. It was so violent, so impactful, that the entire vehicle rocked on its axle. And then, nothing. Just the lingering echoes of fear. M stayed awake, gun in hand, the rest of the night, watching the green-tinged world outside his window. When dawn finally broke, painting the ash-covered landscape in a dull gray, M cautiously emerged. He searched for footprints, anything, but there was nothing. The ash, pristine and undisturbed, offered no clues, no sign of human or animal tracks, except for one. Right beside his trailer door, pressed into the soot, was a single fresh handprint, palm forward, clear as day. It wasn't a print from a shoe or a paw. It was a human hand. But how? And why only one? M packed up, his solitude shattered, his peace replaced by a deep, unsettling fear. He never went back to that spot. To this day, he refuses to speculate on what it was, human, animal, or something else entirely. The footage, raw, no music, no jump cuts, just the escalating dread, speaks volumes. You feel every single second of his terror. Next up, we're heading to the urban fringes, just outside downtown Cleveland, Ohio. This is where Sam lives, but like many city dwellers, he craves the escape that only nature can offer. His sanctuary? The sprawling, beautiful Cuyahoga Valley National Park. Sam's not your typical weekend warrior, though. His entire YouTube channel is built around a philosophy of stealth camping, an art form of disappearing into the wilderness without a trace. Think tiny tents, minimal gear, a minuscule campfire, and the absolute commitment to being in and out before sunrise, leaving no evidence of his presence behind. It's about merging with nature, becoming invisible. One mild May night, Sam embarked on one of these stealth missions. He hiked a good 2 miles off a popular, well-trodden trail, venturing deep into a less explored section of the woods. He found his perfect spot. Nestled discreetly behind a massive fallen pine tree, its thick trunk offering both shelter and concealment. He set up his tiny tent, barely visible in the encroaching twilight, and began recording with his trusty, albeit cheap, night vision monocular, a used piece of kit he'd snagged online. He was settled, feeling the familiar peace of the woods, the quiet hum of nocturnal life around him. Then, at 12:41 a.m., the first sound cut through the stillness. A footstep. Not just any footstep, though. This was distinct, a clear heel-to-toe crunch on dead leaves. It wasn't a deer, not a squirrel. This was heavy, deliberate, human. Sam, who prided himself on his heightened senses in the wild, instantly froze. Every muscle in his body tensed. He quickly, silently, killed his small camp stove, plunging the immediate area into deeper silence. Then, with his heart hammering against his ribs, he whispered timestamp information into the monocular's mic, a nervous habit, a way to document, a desperate attempt to maintain control. The footsteps continued. They were circling, methodical, counterclockwise, maybe 15 yards out, a little further than he'd like, but definitely there. Sam, trying to rationalize, trying to believe it was just another lost hiker, called out, his voice a little shaky, "You good, man? Everything all right?" He waited. The walking stopped. 5 agonizing heartbeats later, it resumed. But now it was closer, maybe 10 yards. The circle was tightening. He slowly, carefully panned his camera, the night vision's IR illuminator cutting through the darkness. But all it caught were the familiar shapes of tree trunks and the swirling tendrils of fog that had begun to creep through the forest. Yet he could still hear the steps, pacing, always pacing, and chillingly, always keeping the tent between the camera and whatever was moving out there. It was as if this unseen presence knew where he was, knew the limitations of his night vision, and was deliberately staying out of sight. Sam's voice, when he spoke again, was a raw, cracking whisper, laced with a fear he rarely let show. "I've got a knife," he warned, trying to sound tougher than he felt. "Don't come closer." The threat, however, seemed to have no effect. At 1:02 a.m., the steps changed. They sped up, still circling, still methodical, but now faster. It was like someone was jogging the rim of a clock, a relentless, terrifying rhythm. The realization hit him. He wasn't just being observed, he was being hunted. Finally, unable to bear the psychological torment any longer, Sam unzipped his tent fly, shining his powerful flashlight into the swirling fog. He yelled again, a desperate, defiant roar into the night. And for one single, fleeting frame, the camera caught it. A silhouette, tall, thin. It ducked quickly behind a birch tree, but not before the night vision captured its essence. No backpack, no reflective patches of clothing, nothing that would indicate a fellow camper or a lost hiker. Just a dark, unnatural shape. Then the footsteps just vanished. No retreat sound, no fading crunch of leaves as someone ran away. Just gone. Complete, absolute silence. It was as if the thing had simply dissolved into the night. Sam spent the rest of the night awake, clutching that knife. Every shadow, every rustle of leaves sending jolts of adrenaline through him. When he reviewed the footage later, the chilling reality set in. The circling hadn't varied. It was almost mechanical in its precision. He reported the incident to Park Dispatch, hoping for some explanation, some understanding. But all he got was the usual dismissive, maybe a bear line. Sam's channel, once a vibrant hub for stealth camping tips, went dark after that trip. He still camps, he says, but never, ever alone again. The experience left an indelible mark, a permanent reminder that some things in the wilderness are best left undisturbed, and some encounters are best avoided at all costs. Our final and perhaps most unnerving clip comes from a group of 4 college friends, full of youthful exuberance and a dash of digital ambition, camping outside Spokane, Washington. They weren't just out for a casual weekend. They were filming a how-to camp on snow, short for TikTok, aiming for viral glory. Their gear was top-notch, including a Sony Handycam with built-in IR capabilities, perfect for capturing those spooky night shots. Their chosen campsite was on a frozen logging road, high up at 4,200 feet, surrounded by towering pines and a blanket of pristine snow. The atmosphere was initially electric with laughter and camaraderie. They dug a neat snow kitchen, built a reflector wall behind their campfire to maximize warmth, and were cracking jokes about the inevitable fate of frozen ramen. The night was crisp, clear, and full of the kind of easy fun that only close friends share. They were young, invincible, and totally unprepared for what was about to unfold. At 10:58 p.m., the laughter abruptly died. A single rock, not a pebble, but a substantial stone, landed with a thud directly in the heart of their campfire, sending a shower of sparks showering into the night. Everyone froze. Their first thought, naturally, was that one of them was clowning around, trying to pull a prank. But before anyone could even voice a playful accusation, a second rock whistled overhead, cutting through the cold air with an unnerving speed, seemingly launched from the tree line. The playful mood shattered. This wasn't a joke anymore. The camera, held by one of the friends, immediately swung towards the dense forest, the night vision kicking in. But all it showed was an expanse of snow and the ghostly outlines of tree trunks. Nothing. Absolutely nothing moving. Then came the scream. It wasn't human, not quite, but it wasn't entirely animal either. It was high-pitched, warbling, a horrifying blend, part coyote, part human baby. It was a sound that scraped against their very souls, a sound designed to instill primal terror. All four friends went dead quiet, their faces, visible in the green glow of the night vision, contorted in fear. One of the girls, her voice barely a whisper, suggested, "Cougar." But the sound had come from above ground level, from somewhere higher in the trees. Cougars don't typically scream from elevated positions like that. 30 seconds later, another sound. A loud bang against their carefully constructed aluminum reflector wall. One metallic punch. The camera pans back, and in the eerie green light, they can see it. A clear, fist-shaped dent pressed into the metal. This wasn't an animal. This was deliberate. This was powerful. This was something. Panic truly set in. Without a word, the friends scrambled, piling into their sturdy four-season tent, zipping it tight, desperate for the thin fabric to offer some protection. They killed every light, plunging themselves into absolute darkness inside the tent. For the next 43 excruciating minutes, the footage is pitch black. All you can hear is their terrified, ragged breathing, punctuated by the occasional sob or whimpered prayer. Time seemed to stretch and warp, each second feeling like an eternity. At 11:44 p.m., a new sound emerged from the oppressive silence outside. The crunch. The slow, deliberate crunch of footsteps on the packed snow. They weren't running. They weren't frantic. They were methodical. And they were getting closer. The footsteps stopped, right outside their tent door. The terror was palpable, suffocating. Then, the camera, still recording from inside the tent, captures a truly horrifying image. A gloved hand, at least it looks gloved, thick and dark, presses against the rainfly. It smears the frost on the fabric, causing the tent material to cave inward, a silent, menacing invasion of their last refuge. One of the guys, trembling, flicks on a small flashlight inside the tent, shining it at the spot where the hand was. Nothing. The hand is gone, but the imprint is stark, clear. 5 fingers, splayed wide, pressed into the frosty fabric. It was undeniably human-like. And then, the whisper, too faint to parse, too garbled to understand, but undeniably a voice none of them recognized. It was right there, inches from their faces, on the other side of the thin tent wall. One of the guys, his hand shaking uncontrollably, dials 911 on speaker, a desperate plea for help. No signal. Of course, no signal. They were utterly, completely alone. They spent the rest of the night huddled together, whispering prayers, waiting for the first hint of sunrise. When the sun finally peeked over the horizon, casting long pale shadows across the snow, they cautiously crawled out. And there it was. Not boot prints, not paw prints, a single line of barefoot prints. No boots, no socks. Coming from the woods, circling their tent in a perfect, unsettling perimeter, and then disappearing back into the trees as if the entity had simply melted away. The sheriff's department, after logging the incident, found nothing. No leads, no explanation. The original video, before the group deleted it, had garnered over 3 million views, sparking countless theories and terrified comments. They eventually took it down, stating simply, "Some things shouldn't stay on the internet. The copy we're showing you, that's the one they sent to a trusted friend moments before hitting delete. No filters, no jump cuts, just pure, unadulterated terror and sub-zero cold." It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of creature leaves barefoot prints in the snow at 4,200 feet? So if these stories made you clutch your coffee a little tighter, or maybe even second-guess that solo weekend you've been planning, do us a favor. Smash that like button. Let YouTube know that real horror, the kind that chills you to the bone, deserves a place right alongside Hollywood's biggest blockbusters. And tell us in the comments, which one of these clips would have sent you packing faster than a speeding bullet? Was it the impossible handprint in the ash, the relentlessly mechanical circling of footsteps, or those utterly inexplicable barefoot prints in the snow? We want to hear your thoughts. What's your biggest fear when you're out in the wilderness, miles from anywhere? 3 cameras, 3 remote campsites, and 3 undeniable reasons to seriously rethink your definition of getting away from it all. The woods don't always need fantastical monsters to be scary. Sometimes the sheer unsettling mystery of what's out there, people or things that act like people, is more than enough to turn a peaceful escape into a living nightmare. So next time you're heading out, remember these tales. Sleep tight, zip your tent extra tight, and maybe, just maybe, invest in a bigger, brighter flashlight. Because you never know what might be watching. For more raw, unvarnished encounters caught on camera, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Because we're dropping new compilations of the truly terrifying every single week. Until then, stay close to the fire, and even closer to the exit. Trust us, you'll thank us later.